awesome. I work really, really hard. And most of the time as a sculptor, I feel like I'm just moving materials around from one place to another, and then I hope over time they become more organized, more meaningful, more beautiful, and have more impact in people's life. And maybe appreciated and valued and maybe. But the longer answer is that I need to have a perspective shift about what making ends meet means. And it's not this linear approach that I need to come from one place to actually pay a bill, but it's that I need to have a sense of connection in what I'm doing, connection to the community. So it's making ends meet. And that perspective change started when I was in high school. I was a math and science whiz kid on the engineering team, science Olympiads. And at the same time, my junior and senior years, I started taking ceramics classes. And that's where I wanted to be. I would skip other classes to go throw pots and stay after school to make work. And when it came time for college, I applied to 9 schools. 8 of them were for engineering. I got into 7 that didn't get into Stanford. And most of them I got scholarships for. And I got a scholarship full paid to an all-male engineering school. I visited with my mother and 19 other young boys who got scholarships there. And at the end of the day, seeing the campus in a Q&A, I asked if they had a ceramics class. And my memory is that everyone laughed at me. And I clammed up and walked out with my mom, and as we crossed the parking lot, I looked at her, I was like, I don't want to go to school with these kids, and I don't want to work with them the rest of my life. And so I chose to go to a small liberal arts school where I double majored in studio art and philosophy, and that's what kind of cracked me open into studying deeper questions that didn't have a specific answer with numbers. And during my first semester in ceramics, in school, I was working with a ceramics teacher as a work study in the art department. We became friends, and one day he invited me home to have dinner. He was gonna cook me some food. And I walked into his farmhouse in Kentucky, and everything in the house was handmade. All the cups, all the bowls, all the plates, everything was handmade. So while he cooked food, I just went through the shelves and touched everything, and I felt this resonance of humanity, and I knew for me that I wanted a handmade life. Like that was the trajectory that I wanted to be part of. I also was introduced, just looking through a neighbor's of our family friends' books, and I found a Joseph Campbell book. And that really helped me feel validated in some greater quest. You know, he has this idea of the hero's journey and this long arc. And those things really shifted. And if you ever meet my mom, she'll tell you a story where she acknowledged the shift. And I came home to visit one weekend, and I was 19 years old, and I looked at her and I said, Mama, I'm gonna make a life, not a living. And she tells everyone she meets that story, so you're ready. And really that was a period in my life though where I really did shift things, and there was 2 mantras that I chose to live by at that point. One of them was seek great teachers, and the other was exhaust the learning curve. And I just kept telling myself that's what I needed to do. I didn't really have a clear map of where that would lead me, and where I found myself was becoming apprentices. I was an apprentice to artists. I would go to their studios. I would volunteer to work for them. I wanted to absorb their information, their skills, their knowledge. And now in hindsight, I recognize that at that time in my life, I was valuing, I wanted experiential value, not exchange value. That's the big shift. And that led me to traveling all around the United States. And I worked in ceramics and metal and glass studios. And then when I was 24, I relocated to Louisville, Kentucky. I started working for a high-end glass gallery there in an architectural glass studio. And in one of the first big exhibitions that we had at the gallery were these 2 artists that came from Paris, Philip Alden and Monica Guggenberg. And I had seen their work maybe 3 years prior in Chicago, and it just blew me away. Like I kept going back to it. It was a multi-day exhibition, and I was like, that's where I want to be. I want to be with these people. These are the people I want to study with. And I had this opportunity to be in their field at this gallery. And as Philip was leaving, he said, you know, if you're ever in Paris, come visit. And I said, actually, you know, I want to come work for you if that's possible. And he said, it's very difficult to arrange that. You know, we're in France for working permits and travel visas and paying. And I said, you know, I'll take care of all that. Like, It's not, I'll come work for you for free and make all that other stuff work. And he looked me in the eye and said that if I kept in contact with him, we'd make it happen. A week later, I found out about a grant being offered by the Kentucky Museum of Art and Craft, specifically for people in Kentucky to do an apprenticeship. I applied for that, got a $1,000 grant that initiated the dialogue. Still had no real means to get to Paris, France from Louisville, Kentucky and work there for free, as I had agreed. And so I had this idea that I would create a sponsorship, and that I was working in this gallery, so I knew there were art collectors, glass collectors, and I had some other people that were interested in my work. So I put together manila envelope packages with a cover letter and my resume and my portfolio and their resume and portfolio, and I sent them out to like 30 people. This is before Kickstarter and what we think of now as crowdsourcing. And I asked for people to sponsor me between $500 and $1,000. And I got $13,500 from 17 sponsors. And I traveled to Paris, France, and I never had to look at my bank account. I just immersed myself in the ethos of these masters. Money wasn't an issue. I did anything they asked, whenever they asked, and it was that, again, the experiential value is what I was there for. So I came back from Paris. I went back to Louisville, Kentucky. It was a city that I had a little bit of familiarity in, and it was low overhead, and I started my own studio there in a building called Hope Mills, which gave me hope every day I went to that old tobacco warehouse. And I was 25, and I said yes to every project that came my way. It didn't matter what they wanted me to do with glass, I would say yes. And sometimes I made money, I made ends meet, and other times I didn't make money. And if you have a metric or a lens of where you're looking at winning some and losing some, then sure, you lose some. But for me, that wasn't how I framed it. All of the experiences gave me information about myself, about the materials, about what's possible, and even a little bit of like business structuring at that time that I didn't care about, but I've got that. So all of it was gaining information. And over time in Louisville, I developed a reputation. I would show a place, they'd be like, oh, you're the glass artist. I'm like, oh, I'm a glass artist. And people would come to me, young artists, and ask how I became successful. I don't even know what that really meant at the time. I think it just means I kept making work. And it took me a while to really come up with an answer. And then finally, someone asked me, and I was like, I think I don't assess risk very well. And that allowed me to do things that other people wouldn't. And I achieved things and accomplished things that were success just by simply not being concerned about the failure. And over a period, I was there in Louisville for 7 years, and then I wanted to change environments. It became familiar. I was doing kind of this thing, identified as an artist, and so I knew it was time for me to go to graduate school. And that's when I decided to come to Hawaii. And as I was leaving Louisville, people were mildly concerned, like, why are you leaving if things are going so good? And I realized for me that I was in a rut. And even if it was a good rut, it was still a rut. And I wanted to change course so that I could have new input, and new environment, and grow. So I came to Hawaii for graduate school. I checked into a 3-year program, getting my MFA. And again, I didn't have concern for money. I was just making work. It was about edification. It was about experimenting. It was about trying to figure out new ways to work with glass and why I wanted to make things. And at the end of school, I was offered a job to teach at UH, so I'm lecturing part-time at the university. And if you know about teaching, you don't really do that for money because it doesn't pay bills. But I agreed to do it, and I've come to love it. And what I recognize as being really important in that environment is that I'm connected to community, and I'm sharing wisdom that I've gained from masters with the students who are also looking to try to figure out more about themselves and their art practice. And so the key thing for me became access and connection, and that's what that environment has helped me to realize, and it's what I seek. So when I'm in a situation and I'm trying to determine if it's of value to me or if I'm getting something from it, those are the questions that I ask. I actually have a mission statement that I work with, and I create a world of embodied wisdom through studying, practicing, and transmitting ritual and tradition. And so I sit with that and see if what I'm doing is actually fulfilling that mission statement. And that's when I know when I'm working with the students that I'm actually taking the wisdom that I've studied, putting it in practice, and then sharing it. And that's where the ends meet for me.